we're live. Okay, sorry, my phone just froze up. Okay. I'm going to restart this. Okay. Maybe our connection is fine now. I'm going to back up slowly. Okay.
No sudden movements.
Right. Don't look at the camera too hard and just go off. All right. So welcome back to Book Chats with Mostly Books. I'm Jody.
I'm Natasha.
And today we are going to talk about He Started It by Samantha Downing. Do you want to do a quick synopsis?
Sure. So like you said, He Started It by Samantha Downing. I would consider this more of a domestic psychological thriller. And it's with a family. Not like a husband and wife type of domestic. It's siblings on a road trip across the country, sort of reliving a road trip they took as a kid with their grandfather to get the inheritance he left, which is pretty substantial. They all want it, and it comes down to, what are you going to do for that kind of money?
Yeah.
So that's pretty much what this is all about, as adults now with their stressful lives and the secrets they're trying to keep hidden from the past, that the siblings kind of know all the secrets, but not really. And their spouses really don't know any. So trying to keep those secrets hidden on the road trip across the country for a lot of money.
Yeah.
A lot can happen.
I liked his substantial inheritance.
Yeah.
Because it's like almost
Millions of
$8
dollars.
million when it's all said and done.
Yeah.
I mean, substantial.
Yeah, pretty substantial.
So what would you do for that?
Life-changing
Yeah.
money. Yeah.
I mean, up front, it seems really easy. All you have to do is go with your brother and sister, relive this, really fun road trip that we took as kids,
with
and
your
then,
grandpa.
spread my ashes at the end.
Yeah.
Seems
Where we ended.
easy until you meet the family.
Yeah.
First off, what'd you think of the book? Did you like it?
I did like the book. I actually liked it all the way through. It took a while. I usually try figuring them out. This one I couldn't. I couldn't tell where it was going, what was happening. So this I really liked that. It kept me reading. It's very addicting.
I wondered if you'd figure it out. Tasha is really good at that.
Yeah.
I'm always like, okay, if Tasha gets it,
Yeah.
don't be surprised.
And I always try, and I'm usually good at it.
You are really good at
I
it.
usually can get it.
Yep. You always, I don't know how you do it, because I'll be like, no, they're so normal.
Those are the ones.
Right.
It's always the ones that seem too nice or too normal. They're just better at hiding it.
Right. I had a little bit mixed feelings. Like, I liked a lot of this. I got to the end and was like, huh.
The end, yeah.
We'll talk about that later, but
No.
it was a huh.
I will say that too. The end made me then question everything.
So before we spoil,
Yeah.
what did you think of the writing style?
So at first I wasn't sure about it, but I got used to it.
Mm-hmm.
I will say. So it was good. After a while, it was good. It was easy.
I agree. I thought it was a little choppy at first. Real short sentences, very almost jarring in some instances.
Yeah.
So I had to get into the writing style.
Yep.
And it took maybe like a chapter is all. But it was different. Yeah.
It is where at first you notice it. And you're like, can I do this?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you can. Like,
Yeah.
It just starts flowing. So,
yeah. And it no longer bothers you.
Yeah.
That it's short sentences. Yeah. Which is weird that is a thing, but I did think that as well.
Yeah.
What do you think of the characters?
Okay. That's a harder question. I feel like trying to
And no spoilers yet.
No spoilers. So without any spoilers, I'll say I kind of like them. You know they're hiding something, so that's why you're rooting to like them. I feel like I wanted to, because you're like, well, once the secret comes out, I'll understand why they're like this. So, that's something.
I think you summed it perfectly. You're wanting to root for them was exactly how I felt, because there are moments when they're pretty wretched.
Oh, yeah.
It starts off, like, the first sentence, I think, she's like, you're going to have to decide who's the heroine or something to that effect.
And she ends it. She's like, I won't be the heroine of this because I've done this, this, and this. So you say right off the bat, she's saying, I'm not a great person.
Yeah.
And I think at the end...
She says right on the first sentence, literally first sentence, you want a heroine? Someone to root for, to identify with? Well, and then it goes on, and it's like, that's not necessarily going to be me.
Yeah.
So she tells you right up front,
right,
you might not like me.
Right. Yeah. I've done some pretty bad things. Yeah.
But here's my story.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, like, Beth herself, which is our main point of view person, I felt like she's just very matter of fact, I think. Maybe is the best way. Like, she's just like, here it is. Mm-hmm. Here's what's happening with me.
Right, yeah.
Here's what I'm seeing. And so you're getting it all from her perspective. And she, I think, obviously has a different idea of how her siblings are than maybe how they actually are.
Yeah.
Like,
and I think it was, they're all in this car on this road trip recreating this thing that happened when they were kids. And in your mind as a kid, it's different than what's really happening. And I feel like they were trying to then translate that at the same time. This is how it was then, this is how it is now, but what was happening then wasn't really what was happening.
Well, and then you have to also...
It's kind of...
Oh, go ahead.
Interesting, like that.
And I think you have to keep in mind that they were pretty estranged at this stage as well. And then we're like, let's shove them all into a tight space.
Yeah.
And see what happens.
With their spouses that they don't really even know.
Yeah. Well, and
so they're like, let's all be together and get to know each other at the same time as we travel across the country and going to, like, bizarre places. That actually, they do seem like interesting places, like off the beaten path through America, which was kind of nice going through the book, seeing those kinds of places. But you do question, like, why would a grandpa bring little kids here? That happens throughout. And so when their spouses see that too, when they say that too, they sort of get annoyed.
Yeah, because I mean, some of them, you were like, you took your kids where?
Yes, you did. What that day?
I mean, they were all pretty violent, off the beaten track historical moments.
Yeah, Bonnie and Clyde museums. Like,
there were some other ones that you're just like, okay, maybe not totally appropriate. Because Portia was 6?
Yes, it was like
she
6,
was really
12,
quite
14.
young.
Yeah.
So needless to say, the characters were interesting. I don't really know that we get to know them.
Yeah, I'd say the one you know is Beth. And then there's Eddie and Portia were the other 2 siblings in the car. And you don't really get to know them because you know them as well as Beth does.
And what she's willing to tell you.
Right. And they don't really know each other really anymore. It's really what they're willing to tell her as well. So it's kind of hard in that way too.
But I think you're totally right in that you get hooked into this pretty quickly. Because you know they're hiding things, and you know
and you want to figure it out.
Beth talks that she definitely is hiding things. I mean, she tells you that. So you definitely can get sucked into this pretty easily, and it's probably a pretty quick read. Like, I read it maybe in 2 sittings. Kind of thing.
I think it's a quick read too. Once you get going, it really goes, and you really want to keep figuring out what's happening with everything. You want to figure out what that big secret was that happened on the family road trip.
And I also really liked that it was a siblings domestic thriller. I haven't read any siblings.
Yeah, me either. And I liked that it was the 3, like the oldest, middle, youngest. I liked the dynamic of that. And
I'm also a sucker for a tight space thriller. I don't know why. Let's put them in these really small, confined, extreme situations. So I blame Ruth Ware.
That is definitely what they were in.
So I enjoyed that as well. And it was funny as they like tried to pretend this was just a normal car trip too. Like, let's play games. Let's do whatever. And you're like, And
they tried talking about the good things that happened in the road trip before. It's so hard. So. And it does do the back and forth. So you get like the present time and then the past. So it does jump. So you do sort of start to learn things as the road trip goes on. Doesn't help.
Right.
You don't learn enough. Doesn't help.
Yeah, either timeline.
There are still, like, even, I think halfway through the book, there's a twist where I was just like, what? I didn't see that coming. And it totally changed your whole mindset of the book at that point. And you're now in a whole different setting. Sort of.
I kind of also felt like even pretty early on there was a big twist that you're like, wait,
Oh, yeah.
What?
Yeah, early on there's a big twist, too.
You're like, how do we not know that part?
Right. Yeah.
Remind me, what were the rules for the road trip? In order to get the inheritance, the grandpa said you had to complete the...
They had to stop at every destination they stopped at. No one could go to jail.
Yeah.
And they had to end when spread his ashes.
Was there anything else that they weren't allowed to do? Just couldn't go to jail?
I think it was they just couldn't go to jail.
Which already is like a big flag.
Right, when you're like, why would that even be a rule?
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing on this road trip?
That was
That's
really
an
like,
option?
How is that going to be a hard one?
I know.
It turns
How are you
out
break this rule?
kind of was hard, actually.
It was, yeah. It was a hard one.
Oh, yeah, that was like a big flag.
Yeah.
Okay, anything you want to discuss before we spoil this and ruin this for everyone forever?
No, not without the spoilers.
I know, because
it's too hard.
I see, this one's hard to talk generally about.
It is, yeah.
Okay, so on that note, spoilers from here. Turn us off, go read the book, but then come back and watch this.
Yeah.
We'll give him a second. Okay. Did you have any idea, first off, that there was a fourth sibling?
No. As soon as that came up, I was like, what? And that's the first twist. I think that comes up pretty quick and really keeps you wanting to read and figure out, like, where is she?
Yeah, because she's gone missing. Their eldest sister has gone missing during
their
first road trip.
Yeah.
Which is, like, is that why we're reliving this road trip?
Right.
What's really happening now?
Why are you going down the exact same one where your sister went missing? Yeah.
Yeah, so that right off the bat. Did you like the questions? The game they had to play that the grandfather, like, played with them as children?
Like, they get to know you kind of questions, so all the normal basic ones.
Yeah.
Until the last three.
Like, last three. Do you remember what they were? If not, I'll look.
I think it was, if you had to kill someone, how would you do it?
Mm-hmm. That's the only one I remember, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're playing Let's Get to Know Our Spouses, because it's Krista and then... Who's best spouse?
I just thought of something interesting.
Oh, uh-huh.
That I didn't think of before. So they do ask that question, and they all answer it. And I think only one of them actually killed someone the way they answered that question.
I like how you said that. We'll come back to that, too. Yeah, anyway, I was like, that was a really funny game. And then into the end, it's like, oh, yeah, haha, what's your favorite, whatever,
and
what's
they did this one with the spouses.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're all like, oh, yeah, boring. And then they get to those and they're like, wait, why did your grandpa ask you this? To, like, kids, like 6, 12, 14, 17.
Yeah.
Like, those are their ages, so yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was an interesting game to play with the kiddos.
Yeah.
So, as we keep going, what did you think of the spouses?
So I kind of liked them. I felt like I kind of liked them. They were thrown into this situation thinking they knew the truth when they had no idea. They had no idea, like, the traumatic experience that happened to them when they were kids, and they don't know about the one that happens later when they're adults. Like, they have no idea. And so they're thrown into this thinking one thing, and they're getting surprised at every corner. So they're not happy. Yeah. You kind of understand them being not happy.
Yeah. Well, I feel like Beth's husband was holding it together pretty well. I can't remember his name for some reason.
I thought he was too, and I can't either.
Okay. And then obviously there was a fallout between, Ed and Krista. Yeah. She leaves.
Yep, and Krista's his wife that none of them know. He had a girlfriend, I guess, for a long time that they all knew and liked, and she's totally gone now, and it's this new chick that they've now met and don't like.
Yeah, there was a lot of attention based on that. That was brought up several times. Like, why did you break up with this other girlfriend, and why is this girl here?
And there's no answers, ever. Like, what happened? Nothing. It's just this girl. So.
Okay, so let's go back to the fourth sibling thing. So, obviously, we were very caught off guard knowing that, and that she's gone missing, and now we're realizing how this has probably really shaped their growing up. I mean, obviously, their parents are very, very distraught. And, in fact, so distraught that we get another whammy.
Yeah. A big one. Yeah.
We find out, midway, maybe? Do we find out that
I
early?
think it's like halfway.
That the mom...
a little farther in, but not much.
Yeah. She really wanted to keep looking for Nikki.
And they're all now grown. Like, all the kids are grown, have gone off to college. They've spent all of their money searching, mortgaged their house probably a couple times. They have nothing.
And it's very interesting that she went missing during the road trip and Grandpa has no idea.
Yeah.
And none of the kids know. I mean, it's sort of like how...
Well, we know how that happened.
We do eventually. But I mean, like, like, the parents, this is the information they're given.
But we do know up to this point she did have a history of running away, but always coming back. And sort of being smart enough to not run away when you have no idea where you really are.
Like, so, I never really bought into that.
I never bought into the runaway because Beth does say, right, she does that at home when she has places to go. But here, she's on the other side of the country at this point.
Yeah.
Like, she has nowhere to go and she doesn't know anybody.
Because it was when they were in, not Nevada, it was Oregon?
Yeah, I think so.
That she goes missing?
Yeah, they were camping.
Yeah. But it was right before they head to Nevada.
Yes, they don't go to Nevada because that's where they decided to look for her.
Yeah, okay, because they think that's where she went.
Because she loves Thelma and Louise.
But that's weird.
Because the grandma did. So that's something that we didn't talk about yet.
Let's come back to that.
Yeah.
So
there's so much stuff that happens in this book. It's insane.
It really is insane.
When we try to talk about it, and you're like, oh, and then this, oh, and then this, oh.
There were a lot of twists.
Yes.
They, for the most part, were fine and worked.
And they worked, because sometimes some books throw in so many twists that you're like, oh, okay, this is stupid.
Let's be done.
It didn't do that. They actually all worked and flowed well. The way it was written.
Okay, so as far as the parents know, though, from Grandpa and the kids, Nikki just went missing. We don't know what happened.
She ran off.
So they are putting everything into looking for her, 20 years at this point?
Yeah, like 20 years
And
now.
finally the dad is just like, okay.
Or 10 maybe, at this point.
Maybe 10. It's hard to say.
Beth says it's been 20 years.
Well, Portia was already gone and out of the house.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, yeah.
It would have to be 15.
At least, yeah.
Ish. Anyway, that part's not important. We don't need the years.
Yeah.
But at any rate, the dad is like, I think we just need to be done.
Yeah.
I can't keep doing this. I can't keep hoping.
Yeah.
We need to be done.
We have no more resources at this point.
And what does Mom do?
She decides that is a really bad idea, so she stabs him to death like 17 times since, he brought it up while she was cooking and chopping up some bell pepper. She decided that was the better solution, and then she sat down at the table and ate her vegetables covered in blood, waiting for the cops to come. So traumatic, and then refuses to talk to her kids again after that.
Yeah.
Except Beth for once.
Once. I know, I
to tell her to keep searching for Nikki. Like, this family has lost their minds. So, at that point, you're like, what?
I think at that point, I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
What kind of family is
you're like,
this?
No wonder they're all so horrible.
And a little messed up, definitely. And it's weird to be, like, so upset about the one missing daughter and then to
just completely cut everyone else off.
Yeah.
Like, completely. And her dad is the grandfather who's super rich with all the money, and he just totally cut her off too. Like, how dare you act like that?
Yeah.
So she had no money, no lawyer or anything, and just pled guilty anyways.
Well, she definitely did
it. She did it. She definitely did it.
No qualms.
And didn't feel bad at all about it either.
Because that's a totally normal response.
I know.
So you're already like, okay, this family is very, very interesting.
Yes. And on the trip, we did find out, before this happened, the grandfather had started beating up the grandma, but in their 60s after he was retired, so the oldest sister finds out Nikki and hates the grandfather. So it caused road trip issues.
Yeah, because when the grandmother was passing, she was thinking she was talking to her sister and was unloading all of this stuff about how her husband was so abusive, but it was actually Nikki sitting there the whole time. So Nikki learns a lot of baggage.
Yes.
And is rightfully upset.
Rightfully upset.
Now, she responds maybe not the best way.
Yeah, not at all the best way. She decides to take over the road trip. She doesn't like the way it's going with all this doom and gloom.
They were pretty
stopping all those crazy
doom
locations.
and gloom.
Yeah. So, in her way of taking over, she switches her grandpa's meds with pain pills and drugs him. To the point where he almost overdoses. So she really could have killed him.
Yeah, she was really on the verge of doing that.
And decided to keep him drugged for a long time and take over the road trip. So it does turn into just pretty much, they're like wildlings. And
they were totally
pretty much how she describes it. Like, they stop showering, They're eating junk food the whole time. Now they're stopping at all these other fun places.
Oh, yeah, they go to like an amusement park and
they try.
Okay.
The brother helps the grandfather before they get to the amusement park,
Right.
so he just drives them past it and lets them all watch it go by as they're sad that now the grandpa's back in charge.
That was so messed up what Nikki did, because I mean it was a long time that she had him drugged and like buried in the back trunk.
Kept him buried.
I mean it was like a station wagon, but still he was.
And he wasn't buried because they would all have to talk to him and check on him, but he couldn't function.
No, at all.
She kept him mostly so drugged. Slept. And he refused to eat, thinking that's where the drugs were, but she was putting it in his water. So when he had to drink, he was being drugged. So it's pretty dark.
Yeah, it doesn't get less dark as you keep going.
No. No.
So before we, do we want to go back also and talk about how their current road trip is going? So they have all this baggage.
Yes.
From the first road trip.
Yeah.
And they're still figuring out the whole Nikki situation. But then they start, like, in the present day road trip with their spouses and everyone, they start, like, getting followed by this truck.
Yes,
And there's
pretty
a girl in
it the road trip.
That has, like, the same color of hair as Nikki.
Yeah.
And, this truck is definitely, like, harassing them.
Yeah, they're taking stuff, they're messing up their car, like, taking out their starter.
Yeah.
Popping their tires. So they're really causing issues. So now Beth is really starting to think, maybe this is Beth.
Maybe this is Nikki.
Nikki. Yeah. Beth is seen as Beth, yeah.
Because, and it's like the color of the hair. And she's like, why else is this random truck following us? I mean, it's a random truck they ran into in Alabama and they started in, Florida or somewhere?
Yeah.
And it's like, why else would this truck be targeting us?
Right.
And it becomes almost a game where every day they're like, did you see the truck?
And watch for it. Like, one person always has, like, a watch schedule and they take turns at
Except
night.
Ed. He didn't really...
He's supposed to. Yeah,
Ed does. Did he, not really believe it in the beginning?
Yeah, he tried saying there wasn't a truck, but then once, I think the starter was gone, they convinced him there really was.
Yeah.
And supposedly he told Krista he saw it.
Yeah. Well,
no, he said he only did that just to calm her down.
And it was interesting because throughout this whole road trip, they're like almost also convinced that somebody from their grandfather's trust is going to be following and keeping tabs on them.
Because they're like, how would he know if we
are doing all of these things?
All right. Yeah.
And how are we going to prove we didn't go to jail? Which Ed almost goes to jail.
Ed does go to jail for the
Yes, he does. I thought so.
He does, and he gets real worried at first that he's going to lose his inheritance for it.
He started a fight with some frat boys.
Well, the frat boys kind of started the fight.
Yes.
They just kept it going.
Yes.
Eddie was ready to fight.
He had a little pent up anger on this trip.
Apparently, that happens in this family.
So, needless to say, they already broke rule 1.
Yeah. Fair one, do not go to jail rule.
But they keep going because at the same time, they're kind of like, are they really watching us? Are they really keeping tabs?
Right.
Let's complete this and see.
Yes.
But then this truck thing starts happening. I don't think they ever think it's in relation to the trust. And I think the only one who thinks it's Nikki is Beth.
Yep.
Everyone else is just like, I don't know what's happening.
Right. They're like, these are just jerks following us.
Right. Which we do finally get the answers to that.
We do, yeah.
It's
not what you expect. That's not a big, moment. It's like an oh.
It's more of a,
that's what it was.
Why everybody needs money.
Yeah.
Because Ed has a huge gambling problem, and it's somebody coming to collect.
Yeah.
And they don't believe
that he was actually going to have the money after this weird road trip. Mm-hmm. So they followed him to see if he really would.
So, Ed needs the money.
Ed really needs it.
And Beth has her own issues with her job.
Yes. She's finding out they're making cuts, and she wants to leave her husband. So she's trying to plan money for that as well.
And does she just want to leave because she's bored?
I think so.
Yeah, that was sort of how
she
it felt.
never told her husband the truth really about anything ever. He has no idea about anything in her life.
He thinks her mom is dead.
Oh yeah, they all tell everyone supposedly that their parents are dead.
And I don't think she ever talked about Nikki.
Nope. And she even said she never told about Nikki. She never told about her parents. For him, this was just a normal road trip. Yeah. They spent the summer with their grandpa. How sweet.
Until they start seeing the attractions they're going to, and then it's like, this is weird.
This is like a morbid road trip.
I liked him. I think he was the only character that I was like, okay.
Yeah.
There's some redeeming quality here.
There were a couple times I liked Krista too, Just a few, because she is kind of really annoying, and you do
She's
think
annoying.
you're like, ugh, just shut up and suck it up already, like everyone else is doing on this road trip. But there's a couple times when you're like, yeah, okay, your husband's a dick. Like, you can totally act like this. Sorry.
Censored there. That's okay.
Sorry.
I initially thought I'd like Portia.
Yes. Initially, I did too.
Because it just seemed like she was just young, finding her way. Who cares if she's doing all these weird jobs?
Right, she's a stripper.
I never know if we actually get confirmation on
yes,
that.
you do.
We? Okay,
yeah.
I'm like, I can't remember. I know they all were like, she does
Briefly,
weird things.
Beth is, and Eddie's like, no, she's not. And she's like, catch up, Eddie.
Yeah,
like,
that's right.
Yeah, she is.
So, but it's fine. I mean, she's trying to pay off her student debt and whatever. So, motive there.
Yep.
And so they all three have some reasons to need some money.
Yeah. And you do try to think, like, we are thinking logically, like, oh, they're still getting over $1 million each. Like, that's still life-changing money, but greed, man.
Really came into factor here.
Kicks in.
Yes, it does. Okay. Do you want to just jump to the end and say what happened, or do we want to talk more about the first road? I mean, there's so much that we can go on.
Well, before we say exactly what happens at the end, I'll say when the grandpa takes back over the road trip, he keeps Nikki tied
with
up.
Ed.
Yeah, with the help of Eddie helping.
Mm-hmm.
They keep Nikki tied up because they don't want her to try to run away or start drugging anyone again. So she's unhappy with that. But they go all camping, and somehow they all wake up not remembering much of what happened. Mm-hmm. They just got really tired pretty early and all went to sleep. And when they wake up, Krista's gone. Nikki's gone. I'm so mixing up all these names now. Nikki's gone.
Yeah, and they don't know what happened, so then they head off to Nevada.
They start searching. The brother runs through the woods to try to make it to the road to maybe catch her, either maybe trying to get to the road also or on the road. They search around their campsite because they don't want to call the cops.
Which is interesting.
Because you would think that's your first instinct.
Even if she has a history of disappearing, wouldn't you call the cops?
You're in a different state. She's never been in. You call the cops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're camping. Who knows who's around?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so after she goes missing, Beth convinces them to go to the desert where
the
Thelma and Louise was, because she thinks that's where she's going to go for sure. And then they're getting followed as well at this point.
Yeah, and in the past. Mm-hmm. And
now when Nikki's gone.
Yeah.
I might have said the wrong name again.
No, you didn't. You were really cool. Didn't the grandfather also try to start blackmailing Nikki with the camera, and he took...
No, Nikki blackmailed the grandpa with the camera.
That's what the camera was.
Nikki
right. That's part of the control.
Nuts and says the worst lie you can say about someone and a little girl. That's where I'll stop that one. So, yes.
And it was a lie.
That works as blackmail. It was a total lie, yes.
That one.
That one. Yeah.
It doesn't redeem
that
them.
One's a lie.
It really doesn't redeem them too much.
They're all still really bad people at the end of the day.
Yeah. Okay, so anyway, back when they were kids, they're being followed. They're headed to Nevada.
Looking for Nikki, yeah.
Yeah, and they get to the desert, and they finally actually encounter, confront, I guess is the word.
Yeah.
The person who's following them.
Yeah.
And it's a PI.
Hired by the parents. Oh, we didn't mention that.
Well, we can now, because this is kind of what we get.
We didn't mention that the kids think they've been kidnapped by the grandfather to go on this road trip.
Oh, yeah.
Because the parents don't really know where they're at the whole time. Yeah. So the mom did hire a private investigator to follow them, because they did talk to them every day. Mm-hmm. They just weren't allowed to tell them where they were, what they were doing.
Which is weird and shifty.
It is. Super weird. So you understand the mom being like, go follow my kids, make sure they're safe.
Yeah, I totally felt that was a valid response on that part.
Yeah, I did too. And so the private investigator gets all upset when now all of a sudden Nikki's missing. Yeah. And he's been following him the whole time, and there's been 4 kids, now there's 3. Uh-oh.
Right.
What happened?
And it's interesting too, so even the PI lost her. Where's this girl gone?
Yeah. Yep.
And I've also been reading these journal entries.
Yep.
Have been put throughout the book, supposedly from Nikki.
Yeah.
And so we're thinking we're getting this perspective of Nikki during this entire read until you find out it's just Beth writing it.
Writing it as Nikki. This is what she would have said. And you're like, you're 12 and she was 17. Really? Okay.
I know. I mean, she really thought
And
they
she
were
was
like...
and she did it recently. Like, she wrote this, like, 6 months before the road trip. For the road trip. So,
which is super
really
weird.
Strange.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did we ever find out why she did the journal?
Because I think she's nuts. She really thought Beth was alive. And she thought if
Nikki.
she wrote out... Nikki. She really thought Nikki was alive. And if she wrote out the journal, it would help her find her.
Yeah, I mean,
if she could really get in her mind.
This weird perception that they were like BFFs too, which I get being close with your sister, but there's a huge age gap.
Yeah, and they weren't that close. She even said, like, she stopped letting her come in her room. She stopped hanging out with her. And so when Nikki took over the road trip, she used Beth as her ally, and Beth loved that.
Yeah, because it was like they were back together again. But I remember thinking, oh, honey.
And that's why she thought she knew her so well.
Yeah, you probably don't. Like, and, like, you've said that a couple times, too. Like, there's no way you knew this 17-year-old like you think you did.
Right.
So, there's a lot in this book. Okay.
Yeah. So, back in the desert.
Yep, sorry. I distracted.
Says, he's gonna call the cops. Like, they're missing a kid. He's gonna call the cops. The mom doesn't want him to, but this is what he has to do. So, the brother, Eddie, has a gun that they found that the grandpa had, apparently, and decides to shoot him so he can't call the cops. Mm-hmm. So they all then proceed as a family to then...
family time!
Yeah, family time! Burn him and the car up and leave him in the desert hidden behind a big giant boulder. So that's their family secret, and that's their road trip. That's where they have to end.
That's where they have to spread the ashes. I know. I remember thinking, this is a weird resting place, dude.
Yeah. Until you get there.
It was so weird.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then when they get there, Eddie unburies something that the girls didn't know was even buried. Mm-hmm. And the truth comes out about Nikki. And...
yeah, you might as well just dive in, because now we're back into present time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you want to say?
And what
happened to Nikki?
So Nikki is dead because her brother killed her. Now, we get the story. I don't know if I believe the story, but we get the story from Eddie that she went after him.
Because when he ran through the woods to find her, he does. And she attacked him.
Attacked him with the shirt with an ashtray in it. Mm-hmm. And he then...
ashtrays, yeah.
Retaliates and then somehow gets, like, because then he says that she attacks him again, but then he gets the shirt with the ashtrays.
And beats her to death.
And kills her.
And then hides her body in the river, or the lake. And yeah. I'm pretty sure the grandpa helped with that. Because they all say, what did grandpa know? And he's like, of course. Why do you think he didn't want to call the cops? You all think he was some horrible guy, but he really was just protecting us from protecting Eddie. But he says, protecting us from the cops coming in and taking away everything.
But then you want to be like, was he?
Right. Right.
So I'm not sure I buy Eddie's story the way he says it.
Yeah.
But yes, I do believe that he and Nikki got into a confrontation.
Yes.
I'm not sure that...
I don't think it needed to end in murder.
No, you really shouldn't.
I mean, if
you
really
shouldn't kill your
like
sibling.
He needed to, right? If you really needed to, he could have knocked her out and dragged her back. I mean, worst case. To me. But no, worst case for them was murder. And then hiding the body of your sister.
This is a lot of deaths.
And we didn't even talk about one of them.
Oh gosh, yeah, Beth's.
Yes.
Yeah, let's talk about that first.
So Beth is nuts as well. And really believes her husband won't support her looking for her sister if she ever told him, and wants to take all the inheritance for himself. So basically,
she's her mom.
Yeah, pretty much. And then she thinks he wants all the money for himself, and how dare him think they'll use this to help pay off his debts. So, millions of dollars, no way. I mean, that's not shareable.
Her relationship with him, you can already tell, is not a very healthy one, because it's always like his and what's hers, and it's not ours, and she's bored, and she's stalking.
They all did kill everybody the way they said they would. The ones that did.
Oh, well, see, there you go. They were honest and playing the game.
Yeah.
But anyway, finish telling about Beth's husband.
Yeah. So she thinks all of this, and finally gets to a point when she has planned to then kill him on the road trip. So when they're at the camping place, which that's where Nikki died. Mm-hmm. We just didn't know that yet, but that's where she went missing. So while they're there, she gets up early with him, like she did at home, to go for the walk. She makes coffee. They have their coffee. They go for a walk and then convinces him to swim in the lake. And then even does the whole, I bet I can tread more water than you. And her, and stupid guy thinks he's better than me. So let's go. And as they're treading water, his drugs kick in. And she can easily hold him under.
So he dies in the lake.
He dies in the lake. And she hides him there too.
Mm-hmm.
So that was just interesting. And then she gets out and acts like nothing, makes sure she's all dried off, and has coffee made for her siblings when they get up, and just says, well, he left.
Yeah, right? He just was tired of being here and he went.
Yeah, we got in a fight. And that's so believable. They're all just like, okay, knew he wouldn't make it. Not to the end.
To be fair, this family is not one you can make it in.
No.
Okay. So that death, first off, felt totally senseless to me. I was like, you're just totally bored with this guy.
Yes.
And so you kill him? Like, again, this is your reaction?
Yes.
I mean, I guess technically they were all that way.
This was all of them. They all think they're going to have enough money to just get out of it. So she thinks if she gets caught, she'll have enough money to buy her way out.
And even, like, before that, like, the killing of the PI guy was unnecessary. Killing of Nikki... Unnecessary. Killing the dad.
But really, murder in general is pretty unnecessary.
I'm not advocating.
What would be unnecessary murder?
But they all just felt like they were just like, I'm bored of you. I'm just tired of dealing with you. Yeah. So I'm just going to end it. Yeah. I mean, all of them. So
yeah, and I think actually Beth might have been one of the worst. Beth and her mom. Because she even says at one point, she sees in his eyes when he realizes what's happening, and she's gonna kill him, and she's just does.
She's like,
oh yeah, he knows now. Okay, no, he won't fight.
Yeah,
she holds him under, and he stops fighting.
I think those two were probably the worst. There was no like self-defense motivation or anything.
They were so taken aback.
It was just, I'm done.
Yeah,
maybe it's just their genes. I don't know in this case. Like, this family,
they all had the evil gene in them.
I wonder who was before the grandfather.
Right.
As we continue down the family tree.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's still not the end.
I know. Crazily enough, we find out what happens to Nikki, and more happens.
I know, right? So then we find out who's been in the... No, I guess she wasn't in the truck. No, she was.
We found out... No, she wasn't in the truck.
But she was in the car.
Yeah, so, and another point, after Krista leaves, and it's really just dwindling down their group, because she gets upset with Eddie, too, for fighting, going to jail.
Yeah.
She leaves, and then really, it's only Beth.
Mm-hmm.
They hear the music that Nikki played the whole road trip, and then they see a van.
Was it Cranberries?
No, it was Garbage.
Garbage. Yeah.
I think I'm Paranoid.
Yeah.
A really good song.
That is a good song. I know. It was like it was perfectly chosen for this.
It was. Yeah. And it's really only Beth, but they all see a van that looks the same, but none of them think anything of it except Beth. Mm-hmm. She hears the music as well. And in camping, she hears music as well.
And she sees the red hair again too, doesn't she? At one point in this car.
In the van.
Yeah. So she's convinced Nikki's alive.
Yeah.
But it's not Nikki.
No. And then and the desert, when the truth comes out about Nikki, the van pulls up and she gets out, and they're like, "Oh my God, it's Nikki!
This person?
She's alive! You really didn't kill her!" No,
it's Krista.
Yeah, wah wah wah.
It was a wah wah wah.
Yeah.
So Krista and Eddie totally got together and connived to take the money and had planned to kill everyone in the desert at the end.
Even before the road trip, they planned the whole road trip. Mm-hmm. The whole scheme to get the money.
All of it.
All of it, yep.
But just wait, Eddie.
Yep.
You get double-crossed. And Krista kills them all.
She kills all of them. So she gets all the money, and that's how it ends.
She was smart to get married.
Yeah. She was smart to be like, let's get married. Because Eddie was stupid enough to tell her everything.
Eddie was stupid.
I
feel like we can say that.
Everything, yeah.
Yeah. The decisions he made in general, you're just like...
Yeah, it was all... you didn't get it.
So... I will admit that once I hit to the end, I was just kind of, like, I liked everything. I liked all the twists and turns. And I mean, this was a messed up family, and you knew it.
Yeah.
But I will say, getting to the end and finding out Krista just kills them all was sort of a letdown.
It was, yeah.
I'm not sure what outcome I wanted.
Me either. I think maybe... one of the siblings doing it, killing them all, and one of them getting away with it.
Yeah,
maybe.
I'm not even sure which one that would be. Like Portia's blackmailing
or even
them,
going to jail. One of them getting caught for doing it all and going to jail. Something, but not this Krista,
like Krista, like who swoops in and does it.
Swoops in and yeah. And she just executes them pretty much. All shoots them in the head.
In the desert.
In the desert, and
I guess they're all together now.
Yeah. And it ends with her saying, "So now you can guess or you can pick who the heroine is." And you're kind of like, "But there isn't one."
Like, none of you.
None of you can be the heroine in this story.
And again, I don't know what outcome I wanted. I guess maybe Portia getting it because she was the least.
Yeah, she was
hateful.
the least hateful of them.
At least she went the blackmail route as opposed to I'm just going to kill you all.
Right.
She has that going.
She wasn't going to kill her siblings.
She's just the only one who wasn't going to kill her siblings. Yeah. I'm pretty sure Beth would.
I think Beth would have too. I don't know if Beth would have killed Portia, but she would have killed Eddie for sure.
She would have.
She might have killed Portia if Portia didn't want to look for Nikki because she was nuts.
I think she would have gotten tired of Portia eventually and just been like, just done with you.
Probably, yeah.
Like I've done with everyone else.
Yeah.
We didn't even talk about her like cyber stalking Nikki's like ex-boyfriend.
Oh yeah.
I mean, she really was.
She really was crazy. Like she did never stop looking. She was just like the mom. From the time Nikki disappeared until she dies at the end, she never stops hoping for Nikki to be alive. So that part's kind of sad.
I mean, that part was super sad. I think the whole Nikki thing was super sad, and the grandmother thing. Yeah. I mean,
I think it was all tragedy. Like I think she was crazy. I think she needed some kind of help.
Which one?
Nikki, in general.
Yeah.
And you see that on this road trip. Still not a reason to be beaten to death by your brother.
Yeah. But, you shouldn't have also been drugging your grandfather almost to the point of death.
You shouldn't have been drugging your grandfather, and you shouldn't have drugged your siblings, because she drugged them all.
Yeah.
And she got Portia, the 6-year-old, to do it without knowing that's what she was doing.
Yeah. That was the hard one.
So,
Poor Portia.
Yeah. So then you just think, God, you're all just horrible people. Not one of you has, like, a redeeming quality.
Her husband.
Yeah. But he died.
And we didn't even talk about...
So he was stupid to even believe her.
Well, she was a pretty good...
Let's try water. He should have been like, nah, I'm good. If you were smart.
He should never have drank coffee from somebody else.
I know.
We didn't even talk about how she messed with him because he was like smoking behind her back and she got really mad.
She talks about how she lies to him all the time and then she catches him lying and she like goes off the deep end.
And like hides his cigarettes and like pretends that he did it.
Yeah.
Like,
totally gaslights him.
Oh my gosh, so much. Yeah, and they were all messed up.
Yeah.
Now, all that being said,
they do tell a story of the mom gaslighting Eddie as a kid. And she thinks of it as the same thing, but the mom does come out later, right away, and says, haha, joking, and they all laugh about it. So to me, that's not really gaslighting. When you say right away, it was a joke.
Yeah.
And you show them the joke.
Yeah, when it wasn't like
Beth
over days.
Is really gaslighting. I mean, watching him search for cigarettes, thinking he's misplaced them, lighters, anything like that. Taking cigarettes out of the pack.
Yeah.
Really, and then just watching it all unfold.
She was kind of evil.
Yeah.
I will say it was a wild ride, and I enjoyed it.
I did too.
Even at the end, I still enjoyed the read. I would definitely read another one by her.
I would too. I thought that too.
And I actually have, I think it's His Lovely
Wife. Yeah,
I have that one.
Or My Lovely Wife.
Yeah, My Lovely Wife, and I would like to read that one.
Yeah.
So it was fun.
I thought it was fun. Yeah.
I will say
obviously a lot happened.
Yeah.
You're right. But of course, they kept you reading.
Yeah,
I mean, it was like a turn every.
Yeah. And again, they sound outlandish when we say them.
Yes.
But in reading crazy. it was like, oh yeah, okay, I can see that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, everything worked, but you're like, so believable. Yes, this really happened.
Mm-hmm. Now, I'll admit, too, when I first got this book in, I was like, he started it. It's totally going to be a wife and husband thing.
I did, too. He always starts it. It's always the husband.
Buries him in the desert.
Yeah. It was not.
But it's nothing like that.
Yeah, nothing.
And the title makes sense, because you can totally hear kids being like, he started it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they did bury someone in the desert.
Yeah, they did.
Kind of.
Sort of, yeah. And, they're all hidden there now, too.
And then you really wonder how no one found this rock. I mean, it didn't even seem that, like, out of the way. Yeah. I didn't think.
Well, they do talk about, they did turn down the road and drive for quite a long time, but...
But like when my husband and I go on things, we end up
because we didn't say. Eddie did say him and his grandpa went back several times looking for this rock because they hid that evidence there, and so they wanted to get it.
The ashtrays.
And the bloody T-shirt, and they could never find it again. So that's why this whole elaborate scheme was brought up. They thought it was a loose end.
I guess it was.
But it's like over 20 years now and nobody's found it. Leave it alone.
Right.
You're going to get yourself caught looking for it.
Just take your inheritance and go.
I know. Leave that country. Be smarter. Jeez.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
You know.
So it was a fun read. It was fun to talk about.
It was fun to talk about.
Because so much happens and you're just appalled.
Yeah.
Did you have any final remarks?
I think we said it all.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. I liked it.
It was good.
And
it was fun to read a thriller. Like I haven't read one in a while.
Yeah.
So that was fun. It was a nice change of pace for me. So thank you for reading a thriller.
Yeah, that's what I like. They're my favorites.
And then next week we will not be having a book chat due to Mother's Day. So happy Mother's Day. We will be back the next week. I think that is the 16th or the 15th. And it'll be Jen and I, and we're going to do Jade City by Fonda Lee. This is going to be a fun, sort of mafia-esque fantasy story. But it should be good. I'm excited to get back into some fantasy world now that I've had a little thriller side.
Yeah.
A little historical fiction last week, so it's time to get back. So at any
rate, you
rate,
don't have to think about how you're going to murder somebody.
Well, I don't know.
How would you get away with it?
It is gangsters, so... It'll just be in a fantasy setting.
Yeah.
At any rate, we'll see you then in 2 weeks at 3 o'clock on that Sunday. And I think that's the end.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.